What if I told you that trying to sound incredibly smart and, really complicated in English is actually the exact thing that is destroying your fluency, lowering your test scores, and completely confusing native speakers?
I mean, it completely upends everything we are conditioned to believe about intelligence and communication, right? But the data we are about to look at today, it leaves absolutely no room for doubt. The pursuit of complexity is it's a trap.
Today, we will shatter the biggest myth in English learning. You will learn how to achieve top-tier fluency by actually simplifying your vocabulary, and we are going to back this up with hard, undeniable data.
Yeah, before we get into the total 4 important points of today's lesson, let's just look at the numbers. We analyze 100 top-scoring elite English essays. We are talking about the absolute highest bands of proficiency, the kind of writing that gets perfect scores on international exams or secures executive-level jobs. And a staggering 33.5% of the language consisted of basic foundational words. Less than 10%, specifically only about 7%, were high-level terms. 100% of the time, simplicity beat complexity.
Welcome to English Learning Podcast for daily life, real conversation, and easy listening practice. If you'd like to support our work, please don't skip the ads. They help us keep creating high-quality content and bring you even better lessons in the future. You can also join our membership program to get access to exclusive content, special resources, and many more valuable topics. Your support truly makes a difference.
So whether you are prepping for a major English exam, or maybe you're gearing up for a high-stakes business meeting, or you just want to speak confidently in your daily life, this deep dive is specifically engineered for you.
Definitely.
I want to highly encourage you to speak out loud during this session. Fluency is not a genetic gift. It is not some mystical talent you're simply born with. It is a structural habit. It is built layer by layer, word by word, through consistent practice and the right methodology.
And we want to reward that consistency. Make sure you stick around because we have a massive bonus at the very end of this deep dive. I'm talking about a premium resource regarding 50 essential synonyms and a very special study plan offer that will fundamentally change how you acquire language. You definitely do not want to miss it.
Let us get right to the core of this data. The first major finding from our analysis, which we can call the 33.5% shock, is the illusion of complexity. In our meticulous breakdown of these elite, top-tier English essays, the text analysis software revealed something that disrupts the entire traditional classroom model.
Right.
Over a third of the entire text, 33.5% to be exact, was made up of just 20 incredibly simple words.
Just 20 words. So wait, out of a 1,000-word essay, over 300 of those words are just variations of 20 basic units. What are the words?
They are the absolute foundational bedrock of the language. Words like the, to, of, in, that, are, this, they.
Okay, I have to push back here because this feels like it directly contradicts every grading rubric I have ever seen. Like, if I am sitting for the IELTS exam or writing a thesis, I am literally scored on something called lexical resource.
Yes, that is true.
The examiners actively look for a wide range of vocabulary. If I go in there and write like a first grader using just the to and of, I'm going to fail. So how do you reconcile this data with the reality of language testing?
That is the exact trap most learners fall into. The misunderstanding lies in how we interpret lexical resource. Schools and, test prep forums traditionally focus entirely on expanding your range.
Not getting you to learn all those big words.
Exactly. They push you to memorize fancy, obscure words so that you can show off a wide variety of linguistic tools, but they fundamentally ignore the cognitive load of language processing.
The cognitive load, what do you mean by that?
Well, think about what happens in the brain of the person listening to you or reading your essay. If they are reading an essay, they are looking for your main argument. If you construct your sentence using flawless, simple grammar, their brain absorbs your argument instantly. That is accuracy.
Oh, I see.
Top-tier communicators focus on absolute accuracy with simple words. When a student tries to force an incredibly complex C2 level word into a sentence where the surrounding grammar is weak, it creates friction.
So it actually hurts them.
Completely. The examiner or the native speaker doesn't think, oh, what a smart word. Their brain stumbles. They register the awkwardness, the lack of flow, and the breakdown in logic.
So it's the difference between range and accuracy. Having a massive range of vocabulary is completely useless if your accuracy with the foundational glue words is compromised.
It goes even deeper than that, actually. You have to learn to crawl, then walk before you can run. If you cannot perfectly control the 20 words that constitute a third of your entire output, Throwing in a word like plethora or ubiquitous is like trying to install a jet engine on a bicycle. The structure simply cannot handle the weight of the word.
I want to pause on a phrase you just sparked in my mind, and it actually connects with phrasal verb you used a moment ago. This is completely essential for our listeners at the B2 and C1 levels. You said that these 20 words make up a third of the text. Let's really break down the phrase make up.
Yeah, makeup is an incredibly versatile phrasal verb. Most beginners know it in the context of cosmetics, right? Like putting on your makeup, or perhaps apologizing after a fight, to kiss and make up.
Right.
But in academic and professional English, the B2 and C1 meaning of makeup is to constitute, to form, or to compose a part of a whole.
Let's give our listeners some really clear professional examples so they can lock this into their active vocabulary. Imagine you are presenting a demographic report to your board of directors. You wouldn't say, millennials constitute 60% of our consumer base. I mean, sounds a bit stiff. You would say, millennials make up 60% of our consumer base. Listener, try saying that out loud wherever you are right now. Millennials make up 60% of our consumer base.
That is a perfect example. Or consider a human resources context. You could say, women currently make up 50% of the executive leadership team. Or, in a scientific context, nitrogen makes up roughly 78% of the Earth's atmosphere.
Why does a native speaker choose makeup instead of a Latin-based word like comprise or constitute?
It really comes down to conversational rhythm. Phrasal verbs often soften the formality of a sentence while maintaining absolute precision. Makes up is highly functional. It doesn't draw attention to itself. It simply delivers the data smoothly so the listener can focus on the numbers, not the vocabulary.
And that functional simplicity perfectly aligns with another vital B2 and C1 vocabulary word we need to expand on based on our findings. I mentioned earlier that this data feels like it contradicts traditional teaching methods. Contradict is a brilliant C1 word.
It really is. Let's look at the mechanics of contradict. It comes from the Latin roots contra meaning against and dicere meaning to speak. To contradict means to state the opposite of what someone else has said, or for a piece of evidence to show that something else cannot be true.
The nuance here is crucial for our professional listeners. When is it socially appropriate to use contradict in a boardroom? If my boss presents a marketing plan, I probably shouldn't raise my hand and say, I contradict you. That feels incredibly aggressive, right?
Absolutely. You would never use it as a direct personal attack in a healthy corporate environment. You wouldn't say, I contradict you. Instead, you use it to describe the relationship between pieces of information or data.
Okay, so you distance it from the person.
Right. You would say, the Q3 sales data seems to contradict our initial projections.
That is such a subtle but powerful distinction. You are blaming the data, not the person. Like the witness's testimony completely contradicts the security camera footage.
Exactly. Or in a daily life scenario, you might use it to point out an inconsistency in someone's logic, but usually with people you are close to. You might say, you keep contradicting yourself. First you said you wanted to save money, but now you want to book a luxury vacation. It's a highly precise word that elevates your speech without sounding like you swallowed a dictionary.
We are about 10 minutes into our journey here, and I want to take a quick pause. If you are sitting there listening to us, perhaps on your commute at the gym or while cooking dinner, and you are having a massive aha moment right now, if you are realizing that you don't need to memorize a 1,000-word vocabulary list to be fluent, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Your engagement is the absolute fuel that allows us to keep analyzing this data and bring you these deep dives.
It really is the community that drives this research forward. So we've established that simple grammar words act as the fundamental structure, the 33.5%. But why do they work so well? What are they actually gluing together?
Right, because I can't just walk into a meeting and say, though, to, of, in, that are. I need actual subjects. I need nouns. What does the analysis of these elite essays tell us about the subjects people are actually discussing?
When we stripped away those top 20 grammatical glue words, we wanted to find the content words, the nouns that elite communicators actually use to score highly or persuade an audience. And we discovered the 10 most common keywords in high-level communication.
I want the listener to really pay attention here. What are those top 10 words?
People, children, time, companies, parents, life, school, health, employees, diet.
Let me repeat those so we can look for the pattern. People, children, time, companies, parents, life, school, health, employees, diet. That is fascinating. Almost all of those words are fundamentally biologically and sociologically about human beings.
That is the pattern. Even when we talk about abstract corporate entities like companies, what is a company in the context of an essay or a debate? It is a group of employees, which are people. What is a diet? It is a health intervention undertaken by people. What we found is that high-level communication fits almost perfectly into the two most common discussion topics in the human experience, which are education and health.
But wait, let's play devil's advocate for a second. What if I am an engineer? Or maybe a financial analyst? Don't I need highly specialized vocabulary? If I'm taking a proficiency exam, maybe I get a prompt about space exploration or macroeconomic policy. How do these 10 words help me then?
That is a very common fear, but it completely misunderstands how advanced communication is structured. Even if you get an essay prompt about space exploration, how do top-tier writers tackle it? They don't spend 1,000 words discussing orbital mechanics and astrophysics.
Right, because most people reading it aren't scientists.
Exactly. They discuss the impact of space exploration on people. They discuss the companies funding it. They discuss how the health of astronauts is affected. They discuss how it inspires children in school to pursue science. The core of any compelling argument, no matter how technical the overarching theme is, always returns to the human impact.
That completely changes the framing. It's a massive light bulb moment. If I spend 3 weeks memorizing a massive complex word like plethora, which means a large or excessive amount of something, how does that actually help me talk about a school's health program? It doesn't.
It really doesn't add any structural value to your argument at all.
It's like building a house. You don't start by buying an incredibly expensive solid gold door handle if you haven't poured the concrete foundation yet. A C2 level vocabulary word is a gold door handle, but the words people, health, time, and education, those are the concrete foundation. You need words that function, not words that just decorate.
What's crucial to understand is that these human-centric topics, the daily lives of people, their education, their physical well-being, these are the subjects that are inevitably always going to come up in conversation, regardless of your industry.
Let's pause right there. You just used our second essential B2 and C1 phrasal verb of the deep dive. Come up. You said these subjects are always going to come up.
Yes. To come up. In this specific context, it means to appear, to occur naturally, or to be mentioned in a conversation without being forced.
It is incredibly common, and it carries a lot of subtle nuance. When something comes up in conversation, it implies a natural flow. You didn't force the topic, the dialogue just organically arrived there. Let's give our listeners some detailed examples. Imagine you are briefing your team before a client meeting. You might say, I reviewed their recent financial troubles, so I fully expect the topic of budget cuts to come up in the meeting today.
It also has a secondary meaning regarding unexpected events. If you need to cancel professional plans suddenly, you wouldn't say, a spontaneous emergency has materialized at my residence.
No, that sounds robotic.
Exactly. You would say, I am so sorry, but something has come up at home, and I need to reschedule our call.
Something has come up. It is the perfect professional shield. It gives you privacy because you don't have to explain exactly what happened, but it sounds completely natural and urgent. Or consider a classroom or exam setting. Our professor loves this specific grammar rule. I guarantee it will come up on the final exam. You aren't saying manifests or presents itself. You just say comes up. It's simple, it's accurate, and it's what elite speakers do.
Returning to your house foundation analogy earlier, let's explore an idiom from our source material regarding a cake. The symbol words, the functional grammar, the topic-specific nouns, these are the flour, the eggs, and the sugar. They are the chemical foundation of the cake. Without them, you just have a mess.
Right.
The complex, rare vocabulary words, those are just the sprinkles. They are the icing on the cake.
The icing on the cake. We hear this all the time. But let's explain the mechanics of this idiom deeply for our listener. When we say something is the icing on the cake, we mean it is an extra enhancement that makes an already good situation even better, but it is absolutely not the main substance.
Right. Consider the engineering of a cake. If you bake a terrible dry cake because your ratios of flour and eggs were wrong, it doesn't matter how beautiful the intricate, sugary icing is on top. The cake will collapse under the knife, and no one will want to eat it.
That makes perfect sense.
In language learning, if your basic grammar and simple vocabulary are messy, if your verb tenses are completely chaotic, throwing a massive C2 level word on top will not save your sentence. It will just highlight how unstable the rest of the sentence is. But if you have a beautifully structured, simple, and perfectly accurate sentence, adding one advanced word is the icing on the cake. It demonstrates complete mastery.
So, to prove that simple, accurate vocabulary is the true foundation of everyday fluency, we must practice it in the most common, yet somehow most terrifying, real conversation scenario on the planet. I am talking about small talk.
Small talk, the absolute terror of language learners everywhere. It is the moment where you don't have a script, you don't have an essay prompt, and you just have to survive social interaction.
It really is panic-inducing for so many, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay.
We are moving into our next phase of analysis, which is real-life application. We need to do an interactive breakdown right now.
Listener, we want you to actively engage with this. We are going to perform a B2 level small talk scenario. It's about the weather and daily life, which are the exact topics that build trust and rapport in the real world before the actual business begins. Instead of just leaving dead air for you to repeat after us, we're going to dissect the rhythm, the stress, and the musicality of these phrases.
The scenario is this. Two colleagues are standing in the hallway waiting for a morning meeting to start. It is raining heavily outside. Here is the first line. I will say it, give you a few seconds of silence to repeat it out loud wherever you are, and then we will analyze it. Ready? Can you believe how heavily it's pouring out there?
Go ahead, say it out loud.
Can you believe how heavily it's pouring out there?
Now, listener, let's analyze the mechanics of that sentence. Notice that we didn't use bizarre, archaic words. We didn't say, can you comprehend the torrential deluge descending from the heavens?
If someone said that in a corporate hallway, people would assume they were deeply unwell.
Exactly. Instead, the crucial word is pouring. Notice the stress. Say it with me mentally how heavily it's pouring out there. You elongate the or sound. It mimics the continuous action of the rain. Pouring is a perfect B2 word for heavy rain because it is universally understood and physically descriptive.
Let's look at the response. I'll say it, then you repeat it.
Well,
I know, it completely took me by surprise this morning.
try it now.
I know, it completely took me by surprise this morning.
Took me by surprise. That is a brilliant phrase. It's so much more natural than saying I was astonished. But look at the rhythm. The emphasis falls on surprise. It completely took me by surprise. It creates a conversational bounce. It shows you are relaxed.
And then the final line of the exchange. I just hope it clears up before the evening commute.
Your turn, listener.
I just hope it clears up before the evening commute.
Let's focus intensely on that phrasal verb. Phrasal verb focus number 3 for today is clear up.
Yes, I said I hope it clears up.
Clear up carries massive utility for a B2 and C1 learner because it applies across multiple domains of human experience. In the literal context of weather, it means when the weather becomes fine. The clouds dissipate, the rain stops, and the sky becomes visually clear. The forecast says the rain should clear up by the afternoon.
But the metaphorical uses of clear up are where you really show your fluency. It is incredibly useful in communication and relationships to mean resolving a misunderstanding. Think about the relief of bad weather going away. You apply that same feeling of relief to a social conflict.
Imagine you are managing a complex supply chain project, and two of your vendors are arguing over a delivery date. You step in and say, I think there's some confusion about the project deadline. Let's get everyone on a quick call to clear it up. You aren't interrogating the problem. You are just clearing it up. It removes the aggression from the conflict resolution.
It's also vital in the health and medical domain, which we already established as one of the top topics of human conversation. If you have an ailment that goes away, it clears up. Like, I took a round of antibiotics and my skin infection cleared up in just a few days. Or, my seasonal allergies usually clear up by late May. It is a highly practical, everyday phrasal verb that native speakers use constantly without even thinking about it.
So we have established that simple words are the foundation, the topic-specific nouns are the glue, and small talk relies entirely on the accuracy and rhythm of these simple structures. But what about the words that connect our complex ideas? The transition words, the cohesive devices.
This is an area where language learners suffer from massive, paralyzing information overload. If you open any test prep book, there is usually an entire chapter dedicated to memorizing transitions.
In our analysis of elite communication, we specifically looked for the most common linkers. We wanted to see what the people scoring 9.0 on the IELTS or writing C-suite memos were actually using to connect their paragraphs.
What did the data show? I imagine it was full of highly academic terms like notwithstanding or furthermore or henceforth or heretofore.
The data showed the exact opposite, actually. The most common linking words found in top-tier essays and professional speech were astonishingly basic. For example, in conclusion, however, although, for instance, as a result, and therefore.
Just those, that can't be right. What about all the complex variations?
Those simple, highly functional linkers completely dominated the data. They accounted for the vast majority of all cohesive devices used by elite communicators.
This is deeply frustrating for learners because if you go online right now and search for writing tips, you will find countless gurus and influencers teaching 17 different, highly complex ways to write a conclusion, or never say, however, again, use these 10 advanced alternatives.
It is a very common marketing tactic. It relies on making the learner feel insecure about their basic vocabulary so they will consume more content. But ask yourself logically, in a standard essay or a 20-minute presentation, how many conclusions are you actually going to write?
Just one. You literally only conclude once per essay.
You only write one conclusion. Why on earth would you spend precious mental energy and cognitive load memorizing 17 different ways to do something you will only execute once per exam? It is a terrible return on investment for your study time.
Let's challenge the grading aspect of this, though. Examiners, native speakers, your boss, don't they give you bonus points for using a weird, fancy linking word?
Yeah.
Doesn't it show you have a larger vocabulary?
No, because they aren't grading your vocabulary in a vacuum. They are grading your logic. They care that the logic flows from point A to point B. Let's imagine an email to a colleague. Henceforth, I shall send the weekly report on Tuesdays.
Oh, wow.
Why does this fail? Because henceforth belongs in a 19th century legal decree, not a Tuesday morning Slack message. It distracts the reader. If you use to encapsulate my paramount arguments instead of in conclusion, but your actual argument makes no sense, you have failed to communicate. The linker doesn't save the bad logic.
This brings us perfectly to our fourth phrasal verb focus. Learning 17 ways to say in conclusion will take up a massive amount of your valuable study time. Let's break down take-up. At the B2 and C1 level, to take up is a vital concept concerning space and time.
Yes, it is an incredibly common spatial and temporal phrase. It means to fill space or to consume time. In a world where everyone is busy, managing what takes up resources is a constant topic of conversation.
Let's give the listeners some deep contextual examples. Imagine you are complaining to a friend about your workload. You might say, this new software integration project is so poorly managed, it is going to take up my entire weekend to fix it. It is consuming your temporal space.
Or referring to physical space in your home or office, we need to get rid of that massive broken printer. It takes up too much room in the break area.
The most powerful use of take-up is in professional courtesy. If you want to show respect to a high-level executive when you enter their office, you don't say, I will not consume your chronological resources.
Right, that sounds so strange.
You say, I know you are incredibly busy today, so I promise I won't take up too much of your time. It is polite. It is native sounding, and it immediately builds respect.
So instead of letting obscure, useless linkers take up your brain space, you need to focus on words that are functional and practical. And those two words, functional and practical, are excellent B2 and C1 vocabulary expansions that perfectly describe the elite mindset.
Let's really analyze the nuance between functional, practical, and complex. A lot of learners think complex means good.
That is a fundamental error. A complex machine simply has many moving parts. It is difficult to understand, and because it has many parts, it has many points of potential failure. A functional machine, however, does exactly what it is designed to do, efficiently and reliably, without unnecessary parts.
Think about it in the context of business app design. If you are developing a banking app, you don't want the user interface to be complex just for the sake of showing off your coding skills. You want it to be highly functional. You want the user to open the app, click one button, and transfer their money instantly. You'd say, the new software design is highly functional. It saves our data entry team 3 hours a day.
And practical operates in a very similar vein, but it relates specifically to real-world situations and actions, contrasting with theoretical ideas. A practical solution is one that can actually be executed given the constraints of reality.
Imagine a massive corporate budget crisis. The consultant suggests flying the entire company to a retreat in Bali to boost morale. You would respond, that is a lovely idea in theory, but we are bankrupt. We need a practical solution to this budget crisis, not just theoretical ideas. Or, in daily life, buying a 2-seater sports car when you have 3 young children and 2 dogs is just not practical.
When we review the data, the elite communicators are highly functional and deeply practical. They use, however, because it practically and functionally signals a shift in logic with zero friction. They don't need to say, be that as it may, or notwithstanding the aforementioned. They just say, however, and they move immediately to the substance of their argument.
Okay, I am entirely tracking with this logic. We have praised simple words. We have proven through data that they are the structural steel of fluency. We have shown that small talk and transitions rely on them. But we have to address the elephant in the room. What about that 7%? If 7% of elite communication actually is a complex high-level vocabulary, what do those words actually look like?
To understand the 7%, we need to briefly explain the CEFR framework for those who might not know the exact mechanics of it. That stands for the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. It is the global standard for categorizing language proficiency, running from A1, which is absolute beginner, all the way up to C2, which is complete near-native mastery.
Let's break those specific levels down so the listener understands exactly where they are aiming.
A1 and A2 are your basic survival English. Where is the train station? I am allergic to peanuts. I like apples. B1 and B2 represent intermediate to upper intermediate fluency. This is the sweet spot. This is where you can have comfortable, flowing, unscripted conversations about your daily life, your job, your political opinions, and your hopes for the future.
And a lot of people don't realize how powerful B2 is.
It might surprise you, but the vast majority of everyday native speaker conversation sits comfortably right in that A1 to B2 range.
So when the text analysis software broke down our 100 elite top-scoring essays, what was the exact CEFR breakdown of the vocabulary?
The data showed roughly 20% of the words were A1, 15% were A2, 35% were B1, 20% were B2.
Wait, let me do the math on that.
If you add that up, it means that over 90% of the vocabulary used by the absolute highest scoring candidates on the planet was A1 to B2 level language. Less than 10%, hovering right around that 7% mark, were actually C1 or C2 words.
This is the part that fascinates me. What are these mysterious C1 and C2 words? Are they giant, unpronounceable tongue twisters that sound like Shakespearean poetry? Are they words like anti-disestablishmentarianism?
Not at all. And this is the biggest revelation of this entire deep dive. We extracted the actual C1 and C2 words used most frequently by these elite communicators. Listen to this list. Accountable, adolescent, advocate, allocate, aspirations, assault.
Wait a second, let me stop you. Those are C1 words.
Yes, according to the official Cambridge Linguistic Database, those are classified as high-level C1 words.
But those aren't weird, archaic words. I'm not exaggerating when I say I hear those words on the evening news, in podcasts, and in weekly business meetings every single day.
That is the secret. C1 words aren't big words you don't know. They are highly specific, deeply practical words used for very precise situations. They aren't used to sound smart. They're used to be exact. They carry complex social, economic, or legal weight that a simpler word cannot carry.
We need to do a deep dive into 3 of these words right now, because our listener can absolutely master these today and instantly sound more authoritative. Let's start with accountable.
Accountable is a masterpiece of a C1 word. It means being responsible for what you do and being expected to give a satisfactory reason for it, usually to a higher authority. It contains the concept of consequences within it.
It is a massive buzzword in corporate environments and politics. Let's give a detailed business context to show the nuance between being responsible and being accountable. Imagine you are a senior project manager at a software company. You have a team of 5 junior developers writing code. If the website crashes because one of the juniors made a mistake, the junior developer is responsible for the bad code.
Right, they did the action.
But when the CEO storms into the room demanding answers, they aren't going to yell at the intern. They are going to yell at you. Why? Because you are the one who is accountable for the project's overall success.
Yeah.
The buck stops with you.
Exactly the right distinction. Let's give the listener a sentence to practice the rhythm. As the department head, you will be held completely accountable for the team's Q4 performance.
Or in a political context where the public is the higher authority. After the scandal broke, the citizens demanded that the politicians be held accountable for the missing taxpayer funds. It is a powerful, precise word that carries the weight of leadership.
Now let's analyze allocate. This is another C1 term that is the lifeblood of business, government, and logistics. To allocate means to give a particular amount of time, money, or resources to a particular person or for a specific purpose.
Why not just use the word give? Why is allocate a C1 word?
Because give implies a simple transfer. You give a friend a birthday gift, but you allocate resources when there is scarcity and competing demand. Allocation implies a system, a budget, and a strategic decision. It contains an entire economic concept within a single verb.
That makes perfect sense. It comes up in budget meetings constantly. You wouldn't say, we need to give more money to marketing. You say, due to the upcoming product launch, we need to allocate more funds to the marketing department this quarter.
It is also incredibly useful regarding time management. treating time as a scarce resource. You might say, between my full-time job and my family, I try to allocate at least 1 hour a day strictly to practicing my English listening skills. You aren't just spending time, you are intentionally distributing a valuable resource. That precision is why it is C1.
Let's do one more of these high-level words. Advocate. This is fascinating because it can function as both a noun and a verb, correct?
Yes, and mastering both forms shows immense linguistic dexterity. As a verb, to advocate means to publicly support or suggest an idea, development, or way of doing something. As a noun, an advocate is a person who publicly supports a cause, a policy, or another person who perhaps cannot speak for themselves.
Let's look at the verb form first. Imagine a medical scenario. The cardiologist strongly advocates a diet rich in leafy vegetables and lean proteins for all his recovering patients. It sounds so much more professional and medically sound than saying, the doctor says you should eat vegetables. Advocating implies professional endorsement based on expertise.
And as a noun, it carries a deep sense of social responsibility. After her own struggles with the healthcare system, she became a passionate advocate for patients' rights. Again, these C1 words are not showing off. They are not decorative icing. They are highly specialized tools used for very specific jobs.
And here is the ultimate danger. If you try to use a C1 word where a simple B1 word would do the job perfectly, native speakers will notice immediately. It will create friction. Which brings us to our final and perhaps most important phrasal verb focus of the day. Pick up. Sometimes spell check software can't pick up on contextual mistakes, but native speakers pick up on unnatural vocabulary instantly.
Pick up is a wonderfully versatile B2 and C1 phrasal verb with several meanings. But here it means to notice, to detect, or to learn something naturally without formal study. It is about an innate sensory radar.
Think about emotional intelligence in a professional setting. If you were presenting a pitch in a meeting and your boss is quietly rubbing their forehead, looking at their watch, and sighing softly, they have explicitly said they're bored. But you might say later, I picked up on his frustration during the presentation, so I skipped to the final slide. You detected the invisible signals.
It's also the primary phrase used for language acquisition itself. Children don't read grammar textbooks, they just play in the sandbox and pick up languages so easily. They naturally acquire the rhythms and rules through exposure, they pick it up.
Or a literal technological detection example. The microphone didn't pick up her voice because she was standing too far away from the podium.
So, bringing it back to our core thesis, native speakers have a finely tuned subconscious radar for unnatural language. They've spent decades picking up the natural rhythms of English. If you force a massive, archaic word into a simple conversation just to prove you know it, their radar picks it up immediately. The illusion of fluency shatters and the communication breaks down.
This has been an incredibly enlightening deep dive into the actual mechanics of language. We are moving into our outro phase now, so let's summarize the absolute core mission of everything we've talked about today.
The core philosophy you must internalize is this: master your existing vocabulary. Stop chasing lists of thousands of rare words. Keep it simple. Be perfectly, flawlessly accurate with the foundational words you already know. Let those simple grammar words act as the strong glue for your topic-specific nouns, which will mostly deal with health, education, business, and people. And finally, use those C1 words like allocate, advocate, and accountable, only when they are the absolute most precise tool for the job, never as a cheap decoration to make you look smart.
To thank you for being a loyal listener and making it all the way through this intensive deep dive, we have a massive bonus for you, exactly as we promised at the beginning of the show. It is believed by top educators that having a personalized, highly tailored plan is the absolute key to success. You cannot just wander aimlessly through your studies hoping to absorb fluency by accident.
That is entirely correct. Unguided practice often just reinforces bad habits. Structure and targeted feedback are everything.
So we have arranged something incredibly special and exclusive. There is a premium service that usually costs $127 for comprehensive one-on-one essay feedback and a fully personalized day-by-day study plan. Today, right now, exclusively for our listeners, it is reduced by over 90% to just $10. For just $10, we will personally analyze your writing, tell you exactly where you stand on the CEFR scale, identify the unnatural words your radar isn't picking up, and map out exactly what you need to do step by step, day by day to reach your specific goals.
It is an unparalleled opportunity to get the exact kind of diagnostic feedback that elite communicators use to refine their accuracy. It removes all the guesswork from your study routine.
On top of that incredible discount, we're offering a completely free PDF download containing 100% safe synonyms for those common keywords we discussed earlier. These are the exact practical words that will add that 7% icing to your perfectly baked structural cake without ever triggering a native speaker's awkwardness radar.
That is a phenomenal toolkit. So what exactly do they need to do right now to get access to this?
Go to the description box right now. I have provided a link. If you subscribe just once, you will receive a free English learning article in your email every single time we publish. It is a constant, reliable stream of high-level practical learning delivered right to your inbox for free. And if you enjoyed this podcast, there are many more podcasts on my channel. Go check them out and binge watch your favorites. Surround yourself with the language. Submerge yourself in the rhythm of the grammar.
And we absolutely want to hear from you. We don't just want you to be passive listeners. We want to see you taking active steps toward fluency today.
Yes. In the comment box below, I want you to do 3 specific things right now. Number 1, write the exact phrase, "I am consistent." Declare it to the world. Make that psychological commitment to your daily practice.
Love that.
Number 2, write down 1 key word and 1 idiom we explained today, perhaps accountable or the icing on the cake, and use them in your own original sentence. Show us you can use them accurately in a real context.
We want to see those examples.
And number 3, give us your feedback. What kind of topic do you want for the next video? What are you struggling with?
We read every single comment, and your direct feedback shapes exactly what we research and what we dive into next.
And do hype this up in the comments if you like this video. Hit the like button, share it with a study partner. Your enthusiasm helps the community grow and allows us to keep bringing you this level of analysis.
Before we sign off, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over. It is something that should fundamentally shift your mindset. Next time you open your mouth to speak in a meeting or sit down to write an email in English, stop and ask yourself, am I genuinely trying to communicate an idea clearly to another human being, or am I just secretly trying to prove to them how smart I am? The moment you let go of your ego, the moment you stop trying to impress people with your complex vocabulary, is the exact moment you finally become fluent.
Keep it simple, keep it incredibly accurate, and keep practicing. We will see you in the next deep dive.